McClanahan, who has been a member of Toastmasters for many years. He's recently begun teaching courses on American authors and literature to seasoned adults. He has taught two classes, or he has taught a class at Senior University of Atlanta, which provides a program that is mind expanding classes, travel, and social opportunities. And also at the Osher Lifetime Learning Institute, which is called OLLI. It's a nationwide network through Emory, which offers a lifelong learning program for those who enjoy learning for fun. He's now preparing for a second, he taught the same course at those two institutions, and now he's preparing a second one, and he's going to give us a little preview, which he did before on his other class, with his speech today, which is Ralph Ellison, intellectual pioneer of 20th century civil rights revolution. Ralph Ellison, intellectual pioneer of 20th century civil rights revolution, Ellery McClanahan. I'm going to switch seats so that you can see him and not me. Give us just a moment, Madam Timer.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, friends, and others. Today's speech on Ralph Ellison is a pretext for a speech I'll give next week at my class. Ralph Waldo Emerson. He was named after Ellison. He was named after Emerson. His name is Ellison. And his father wanted him to be a writer. And as it turns out, he became a writer. He was born in Oklahoma back in 1914. And he was always very proud of the fact that his family had moved west to settle Oklahoma and make it a place of entrepreneurship and a place for Americans to start anew. His father moved out there, and then his father was killed in a accident by, he was in the construction business, and he was lifting some ice, and a piece of ice fell down and struck him in the chest and pierced his chest and killed him. So Ellison was brought up basically without his father from about the age of 4 or 5. And his mother took care of he and his brother. Ellison from the start was a bright student, an interested student. He was Black in a state that had Blacks and 3 or 4 other ethnic groups had gone out there to settle, and they all felt pretty comfortable with each other. They were doing the American thing, and he did pretty well in school. And then he won a scholarship to Tuskegee Institute, which was a couple of states over in Alabama. So he took a freight train over to because he didn't have much money, and he took just sort of extra money that his mother was making. His mother was a housekeeper for relatively well-off families in the Oklahoma area, and she used to bring home magazines from their homes. And so, since he was a pretty good reader, he read a lot of pretty unique magazines, and he became very well educated in addition to school through these magazines. Anyway, he came over to Tuskegee Institute, which was a Black college in Alabama, and it was a pretty shocking experience for him. He got over there. found out that the blacks in this Tuskegee Institute were much more racial and much more difficult to get along with than anything he'd imagined. There were people that had money, there were people that were in the middle, and there were people that at the bottom, and there were fraternities, and there was all kinds of ways that people were pretty mean to each other. And Tuskegee Institute was an eye opener for him, and he he always I think he always resented the difficulties that he had in getting through there, but he did very well. He became very good friends with the professors at Tuskegee Institute because he was a good student. And actually, Tuskegee Institute used him to teach some classes while he was there. And the teachers who liked him, especially in the English department, even offered him a job. Said, "Why don't you just stay here and you can teach?" And he didn't want to. He wanted to get away from Tuskegee Institute, but it's interesting. That's the level of intellectualism that he sort of exhibited. So he wanted to get up to New York where the action was. So when as soon as he got out of school, he went up to New York, went up to Harlem, and he stayed at the YMCA in Harlem. And he ran into Langston Hughes, who was a famous black writer on the steps of the Y. He introduced himself, and pretty soon Langston Hughes was introducing him to other black writers and intellectuals in Harlem. And he got himself, he got various jobs there in the teaching world. And he eventually wrote this book after the Second World War called The Invisible Man. And The Invisible Man was about a black man. It was a little bit autobiographical, who lived in sort of a hole under a manhole in Harlem, and communicated with the world through a system of communication that never is quite exactly explained. But he's down there, and he's invisible to people, which is what he felt that black men were. And Invisible Man was a 350-page novel, and it was a little bit taken after Dostoevsky's famous book Notes from the Underground. I mean, he admitted that he used that as sort of a format for this Invisible Man. It was very popular. He wrote it between 45 and 50, and it was published in 52. And in 1953, it won the National Book Award, which swept aside Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea. And he became very famous, and he became very called on to be a speaker, and he was a great writer of essays, and was pretty much a revered person, and helped fund the ideas for Martin Luther King and many of the other great black activists of the 60s. And Ellison was somebody that they could look to as a thought leader, along with Langston Hughes and Robert Wright, and of course the great one James Baldwin, who was pumping out good writing in those days. So that about covers the time period I have for you today, and I'm going to end on the note of think of Ralph Waldo Ellison, and you'll be on the right track. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellery.